This is the 5th milestone for my level, titled Throw Me to Them. It is made using the Far Cry 5 arcade editor, which is powered by the CryEngine and the Dunia 2 engine. To begin, I'm going to go over my design thoughts. After that, I will do a playthrough of the level so you can see it in action. Okay, for the camp. The story for this level is that the player and 3 others were called to figure out what happened in this area, as the path, which you'll see up here, was blocked by snow, and the locals hadn't heard from anyone who was here in a while, so they wisely called someone else to investigate it. When the player arrives, they run into the little camp, but there's no one here. There is one body in here, and the other 2 bodies can actually be found over there, with some context clues if you actually look into or around the tents of whom belongs to which one. I put a little fire, and I did scorch the ground a little around it to melt the snow. This gentleman over here died fighting this wolf, but he did end up killing it in the end. I put arrows here as a just in case, as that is the weapon that you start out with for your loadout. As you can see, the name of this loadout is a reference to the Mad Devil Karate Fashion Week mission in Far Cry 4, where you had to hunt down a legendary wolf with a bow. Hence the choice of bow in general. You can find 2 other weapons in this level. There's a pistol over here, and there's an LMG in the cave, which I'll show you in a moment. In terms of numbers, there are 11 enemies in the level, 10 of which are wolves, 1 of which is the boss. Once you come down the hill from the camp, you'll run into this cabin here, which I did put the flag on it myself. All the walls are blocked, like the doorways themselves. However, you can go through any of the windows, even this closed one here. You can break these down. There is 1 wolf inside who has been using this house as a home of sorts, as there's a little pile of bones in the corner, and the aforementioned gentleman with the gun. If you go outside of the house and down these steps, there's our second fighter over here, who died taking out these guys, and if you notice, he doesn't have a gun. His gun is actually the LMG that is inside the cave. There's 1 wolf here by the grapple, which was covered due to the texture stretching, but this needed to be a straight wall, that way you didn't get stuck on it. This one here didn't have any, because these scrapes here are from the bridge itself when it collapsed after the whole snow avalanche over here. If you come up the second grapple, you can find this ramp, which can be used to wingsuit off when you're done if you like. It can be done anywhere, of course, but this area here is clear, so it gives you a little heads up. This little spot here has some medkits, just some supplies that didn't make it to their actual destination. They never made it up here. As you can see, there is some up here. There was a large battle between the people and the wolves, as they came from this area before it was snowed in. If you go further into the cave, there is more of them who have set up their little base here. And there's some ammo, some more ammo over here. 1 medkit right in the corner with this gentleman who was writing beforehand. They were the manager in terms of workers. This area here was custom, as the original asset is for a regular rock, so it doesn't match this icy landscape. If you go into here, there's these two who froze as they didn't make it out the cave towards that battle. And there's this person here who was crushed by a rock, which was thrown by our lovely boss here, who came from this very large boulder that is blocking an area that is not accessible. The reason that these two decided to stay is they didn't want to get hit by the boulder either, as these three individuals were running together originally. The wolves didn't get them because they were also afraid that the Yeti was going to throw something at them, so they chose to just avoid the area entirely. There are grapples on each of these pieces of scaffolding that was used for the excavation. There are 2 zip lines, one here and one over here. More supplies around, and medkits. There's 2 sets of ammo boxes with their own little set of stairs. Everyone did have... There was ammo saved, just in case if they did run into issues. If you go to this section over here, you can see more pickaxes and such. All of the grapples have this little rope at the bottom. They are rather easy to see in-game, however I did add them since in the more modern entries you can turn off the HUD. Most of these games you can turn off the HUD, not everyone does it, however I wanted to accommodate, so just in case if this was a regular level and you were playing without the HUD, you could feasibly figure out where they are. There is a flare in here, since this is the quickest route out once the boss has been defeated. I did put a flare near the gun, so that way it is easier to spot, just in case if it blends in with the blood on the ground, since they are both rather dark. Other than that, small things off to the side. Since this middle plane, it was easier to move supplies if there was a large space instead of stuff all in the middle of the floor. The lighting for this level, I moved this to this specific time and minutes and such, because if I didn't, there was light going into this room and to the other cave because of the way these assets are processed in terms of how they've been put into this editor. So I wanted to make sure the light didn't just go through the walls, considering that is not how that works, obviously. Other than that, I'm going to move on to the actual playtest. Playthrough, that is. As I said, there's only these ones. This one here. These 3 had to be relabeled because the game perceives them as duplicates if you don't. I did change the level to a bounty hunt instead of an assault, as I did not need multiple waves of enemies. Plus, as you can see on the compass, all the enemies show up. I did provide binoculars and bait for the player if they wanted to be a little more on the stealthy side, just in case. I made sure to block off as much as possible, as the AI has a tendency to run off into the abyss, which seems to be a quirk of this particular editor more than anything, as in the regular games, they go right for you no matter what. The Yeti that you saw in the end, the reason that I didn't include any cover, despite the fact that he's supposed to be throwing rocks at you, as he doesn't do that in this particular iteration of him. However, in the Valley of Yetis DLC for Far Cry 4, he did. So I made sure to accommodate for that. Regardless, the boss himself, I made sure not to include the cover, as I said, because movement, constant movement, is very important for him, as he can delete your health bar if he looks in your general direction and gets you. So, I thought it was wise to discourage sitting somewhere and poking your head out, because you're just gonna get killed. Far away movement is your best bet, after all, especially considering how large he is, which you will see in a moment when we climb on up. I did give the player 5 medkits to start, as I wanted to be sure that even those who wanted to just go straight for the boss themselves, instead of, those who are less keen on looking around, that is. I wanted to be sure they could still complete the level. That's another reason why the LMG is so prominently placed, as the Yeti is a very tough enemy and requires a good chunk of firepower to kill. I did make sure to add those ammo boxes that you saw before, just to be sure that you would be able to defeat the boss, as without killing the boss you can't leave, obviously. Once you come over here, these wolves, their AI does not allow them to get out. From a normal standpoint, I'm sure they could, but in a video game sense, they cannot. So, very useful for that. So if I needed more bullets, I can just run over here. There's some in this corner, as I showed you before. And some bones off to the side. This is where they were stashing theirs. As you saw, the one in the house was stashing bones as well. Now, this behavior, this running back and forth, I was trying to determine what exactly caused it, as they seem to favor doing so, no matter what. Which is odd, as you saw, they did run up to me before. You do have to crawl through here as well. Did that on purpose to force the player to go a little slower so they can notice our large friend over there. As I said, you can go around here if you'd like. Take a couple of shots and keep going around. He's coming over here, he's right there. Now, you fall on him like that, see, look. With the armor, the body armor does give you a bit of leeway in terms of his damage, but it's not a ton, as you can see. This is why I made sure to include medkits all around, because he is exceedingly fast, even though you wouldn't think so, considering his size. But if you're skilled enough, you actually can walk around like this as well. So if you didn't want to run all the way around, you could do that to try to sneak about, as his AI is pretty good, but isn't overly aggressive, oddly enough. Like, as you can see, he's not even paying attention. He's just kind of letting me. Even though I was moving around, hopping on stuff, pretty much wall running. It was a nice touch, but with movement, see, if I want to get back here, I can just go here. I always made it go to the lower platform, so that way if you wanted to get down, you didn't want to go up, you did have the choice. Now, he's going to keep shifting about, because he's trying to figure out how to get to me, of course. You can go up here and grab more bullets if you needed them. Aiming for the head is the best. If he does grab you, you could mash a button to get out, so it isn't an immediate death. That's why I made sure to include extra medkits around, even on the different areas, so just in case if you got up there. Natural regen is still enabled, so if you were able to avoid him enough, some healing from that. These weapons, they do respawn to their initial points, likely as a method to prevent you from completely losing them, as in the regular games. You can trade out your weapons if you find one you like on the ground. Other than that, you can go over here and wingsuit on down, or die. See, that's another thing, you gotta watch for the trees. That's why I made sure that for the ramp, that's why the ramp is facing that direction instead of just anywhere. Because like I said, you can wingsuit anywhere. You can wingsuit up there, you can wingsuit down here. But I wanted to include a spot that's more obvious. Like this one, very prominent. That way, you would be more likely to actually get where you need to be. As I said, it isn't an immediate death, which is good. So you have the chance if you mess up, if you're not as familiar, as these games do offer the wingsuit, but it is usually not given out the gate. Normally it's earned, but that has been changing over the years. Other than that, we are at the end. Hope you enjoyed.